We'll go to Ms Benham.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, Minister.
Evening.
What's the budget for the CFA for 2025-26?
Yep, so the budget for the CFA for 2024, 26,
No,
25, sorry, I'm so sorry, I misheard you. I've not only got, crap in my nose, it's in my ears as well. Sorry. So what we see with this CFA budget, the components of the budget this year that is there to support the CFA are multifold. And what I want to do is firstly really talk to the fact of, and I know that you share this as well, is your gratitude for the work that CFA volunteers do. They're really extraordinary, how they are always there to be relied on. Now,
sorry, Minister, in the interest of time, I've got really limited time, and we know that the Act requires the Treasurer to consider the funding requirements for funding recipients before setting the rates for the Emergency Services Volunteers Fund.
No, sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm dead serious when I say my ears are blocked. I'm just going to have to get you to slow down. I'm so sorry.
Ms Benham, bring the microphone closer.
Sure.
Sorry.
That's the first time anyone's ever said that to me. The Act requires the Treasurer to consider the funding requirements for funding recipients before setting the rates for the Emergency Services Volunteer Fund. So the rates were set on Friday. So what was the budget figure that that the department, the CFA that the CFA provided the department to allow the Treasurer to set the rate?
Well, that would have been a conversation between Treasury and the CFA.
Secretary?
That maybe would have been a question too.
Sorry, the Associate Secretary to add to this, but it's a forecast estimate of the budget for all the ESOs that are under the levy. So it's a forecast, so it doesn't include all of the funding, and there are some exclusions, which I think both the Treasurer and the Premier went to earlier today.
And are they separated between agencies?
So each agency has different exclusions in relation to their budget. So at this time of the financial year, we haven't fully set the agency's budgets for the next financial year. What DTF has calculated the forecast for the purposes of the ESVF on is the forecast estimate budgets for each agency.
So what was the CFA forecast?
But we know it is per the gazettal rate.
So it is per the gazetted.
What that gazettal rate excludes,
which is not
a
the full
range of
funding
matters,
that is
a range
available
of
to the
things.
CFA.
So the gazettal rate excludes the investment that the government's made through the Supporting Emergency Services Volunteer Initiative in the mid-year update, and also in further supporting our emergency services volunteers in the 25-26 budget. So that's totaling more than 250 million.
So, as I think has been made clear, Ms Benham, that the funding for the ESVF announced in the Supporting Our Emergency Services Volunteers in the 24-25 budget update, and further supporting emergency service volunteers in the 25-26 budget, totalling more than 250 million, as this funding was held in contingency subject to the ESV legislation passing and has not yet passed through the relevant agencies and departments. So that's not in the figure that you're talking about. Other funding committed in the budget but not yet passed on to agencies and departments. It doesn't include funding received from the Commonwealth or other state government departments. Fundings that agencies contribute to whole of sector services, such as the Velling Volunteers Program, the Emergency Management Operational Communications Program, or 000 Victoria. So, or funding that is held in trust by the agency or the department, or funding for unexpected or unforeseen needs. So our emergency services will be fully funded in the next financial year. And as you've heard from both the Treasurer and from the Premier, there is nearly $2 billion of investment in our emergency services for the upcoming budget. Now, this is double what was received by when we came into government. It's double that amount, and it's also more than double than what was. It's also more than double the amount that. It's also more than double
base funding for the CFA.
It's also more than double the figure that was around when the last year of the Liberal coalition government.
Is the base funding what's
the money that we're providing in this in the emergency services portfolio is more than double that funding.
So what's the
very
figure?
clear?
What's the base figure?
It is very clear that there is funding for our emergency services in this budget.
Yep, but not very clear on what the CFA base funding is. So, Secretary, have the CFA, SES or FRV been advised of their budgets for 25-26?
So the process for that is done before the end of the financial year. So we are working with them till 30 June to work through their final budgets. As the Minister has just said, these are forecast estimates of the budget by which the rates in the gazettal are set. The Minister has also set through what is not included in that gazettal rate. Not rate, but their forecast estimates of their base funding.
So we're into June now. When will they be advised of what their budgets are?
So it's standard process that they will have their budget settled before the start of the next financial year.
So, but what your questions have not anticipated, whether it was this morning to the Treasurer or whether it was the afternoon to the Premier, is by the very nature of emergency services, is that you put forward what you estimate will be a general amount that is needed, but you know that there is other money that is also required for your emergency services to operate because of the changing conditions that they experience and the things that
Yes,
they have.
but this is
now,
in the
it
interest
will
of
be
time, this
reported
is
in the
budget
annual reports
estimates,
for each
Minister.
agency
Surely
following
you
the
must
annual
have an
reports.
estimate of what the budgets are. This is the very reason we are here,
Well,
to give an estimate.
As I've said to you,
In the interest of time, I just want to get to the figure of what the estimated budget is that you're giving them.
I think if I can just add, we work through that process now with the agencies, with each agencies, to confirm their estimated budgets for the next financial year. We reconcile the provision of funding by the state government at the end of a financial year, and it's published in their annual report. So at this stage of any financial year, regardless of whether we have the ESBF or the Fire Services Property Levy, we would not yet have finalised the ESO's final budget for the next financial year, because we have to incorporate all of those things that we have stepped through in terms of being able to identify and finalise.
So are you refusing to answer this question, or have estimates not been done coming into budget?
This is a process that has been established since the Liberal and National Coalition government brought in the fire fund. So in the,
Thank you,
2012.
Minister. We're going to move on. We're going to go to Ms Telakari.
Thank you so much.